Okay, let's keep reading Captain Underpants, Bionic Booger Boy. Book 2, we are up to chapter 29. Come up and see me sometime. Soon a crowd gathered and began to recognise Melvin. Hey, cried Misanthrope. That's the little squirt who said he was going to fire my hiney. There he is, shouted a couple of very angry old ladies. That's the little brat who left us up in a tree. He made us lose the big game, cried the entire football team simultaneously. Dudes, yelled one of the skateboarders. That's the little dude who duded our dude boards a few dudes ago. Hey, laughed Melvin nervously. Maybe I'll just get home now. Get him, shouted the old ladies. Ah, screamed Melvin as he ran away, followed closely by a large group of very angry people. Chapter 30. Harold's Surprise. As Melvin and his angry mob ran off into the sunset, George and Harold had just one last thing to deal with. A quick squirt of water to Captain Underpants' face was all it took to bring him back to his cruppy old self. Well, that takes care of that, said George, and the two boys walked back to their treehouse. As George climbed up the ladder in the treehouse, Harold became quite fidgety. Said Harold nervously. There's something I should probably tell you, George. But when George reached the top of the ladder and looked inside the treehouse, no explanation was necessary. Hey, said George, I thought you told me you took Crackers back to his home. I did, said Harold, but he's back to his new home. Harold, said George sternly, we can't keep a pet pterodactyl. Do you know how many crackers they need to eat every day? We could never afford it. I know, said Harold sadly, but look how cute he is, and he's made friends with Sulu too. Can't we keep him for just one night? Well, all right, said George, but we're taking him back tomorrow. Chapter 31. Tomorrow. The next day, George, Harold and Sulu returned to the school with Crackers tucked snugly into Harold's book bag. Together, the four friends sneaked back upstairs to the library where the purple Potty stood before them in all its forbidden glory. Come on, said George, let's give this baby another spin. I don't know, said Harold. Maybe we should give it a day to cool off. Nah, I'm sure it can be used 2 days in a row, said George. What could possibly go wrong? But didn't Melvin warn us not to use this machine 2 days in a row? Asked Harold. Yeah, said George, back in chapter 12, starting with the first word in the third line of the second paragraph on page 77. What exactly did he say? Asked Harold. Beats me, said George. I'm not very good at remembering details. Well, I don't know about this, said Harold. What if our journey brings about the end of the world as we know it? That's ridiculous, said George. It all sounds like a setup for a sequel to a really lame children's book. The four friends stepped inside the purple Potty and closed the door behind them. George set the controller to return them to the Cretaceous period of the Mesozoic era and then pulled the chain. Suddenly, an orange light began flashing wildly. Hey, I don't remember seeing an orange light before, said Harold. Then the purple Potty began to shake and rock violently. I don't remember this thing shaking and rocking before either, said George. Something is wrong, cried Harold. Something is terribly, terribly wrong. Suddenly, the entire room lit up with an explosive burst of lightning, and the purple Potty began to disappear into a whirlwind of electric air. The only thing that could be heard above the chaotic clatter was the sound of two terrified voices screaming into the unknown abyss. Oh no, screamed one of the voices. Here we go again, screamed the other. Oh, that's the end.